Captain Lisa Murphy sat in her command chair watching the morning reports when the strangest thing happened. The communication system started beeping with an emergency signal that she had never heard before. The sound was deep and scary, like a monster growling from far away. Her communication officer turned around with wide eyes and said the signal was coming from outside their galaxy. Lisa stood up quickly and walked to the main screen. She had been running Earth Defense Force operations for 10 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The screen showed a massive ship that looked like it was made from black metal and sharp edges. The ship was bigger than 3 Earth cities put together, and it had red lights that blinked like angry eyes. The ship sent a message, and when it played through the speakers, everyone in the command center stopped what they were doing. The voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. It spoke in perfect English, which was strange since it clearly was not human. I am Zarathek the Destroyer, champion of the Vorthak Empire. I have crushed the warriors of 17 star systems. I have broken the strongest fighters from 100 different worlds. Now I challenge the species called humans to send their greatest warrior to face me in single combat. Lisa felt her heart start beating faster. She had heard stories about the Vorthak Empire from other alien species, but they were just stories. The Vorthak were supposed to be legends, creatures so powerful that entire planets would surrender just hearing their names. The voice continued speaking, and with each word, the situation got worse. If your champion defeats me, my empire will leave your space for 100 years. If I win, your planet Earth becomes property of the Vorthak Empire, and all humans become our servants forever. The command center was completely quiet. Nobody moved or spoke. Lisa could hear her own breathing and the soft humming of the computers. She looked at her officers, and they all looked back at her with scared faces. Before Lisa could say anything, the door to the command center opened, and in walked the most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen. She was tall and thin, with pointed ears and long silver hair that seemed to shine with its own light. Her skin was pale like moonlight, and her eyes were bright green like emeralds. She wore a flowing white dress that moved like it was made of clouds. This was Melody Starweaver, the elf ambassador who worked with humans to deal with other alien species. Melody was over 300 years old, but she looked like she was 25. She was also one of the best warriors in the galaxy, though she preferred talking to fighting. Melody walked to the center of the room and bowed slightly to Lisa. Captain Murphy, I heard the message from the Vorthak ship. This is very serious. Lisa nodded and asked, How serious are we talking about here? Melody's face became grave, and she clasped her hands together. The Vorthak are not like other species. They follow ancient laws of honor that are older than most civilizations. When Zarathek makes a challenge like this, she cannot take it back. If humans refuse to fight, she will consider that the same as surrender. What do you know about this Zarathek? Lisa asked. Melody began pacing back and forth, her dress flowing behind her like water. She is the most dangerous warrior alive. She stands 8 feet tall and has scales that can stop laser blasts. Her claws can cut through steel like paper. She has fought for 300 years and has never lost a single battle. Lisa felt sick to her stomach. What about our best fighters? Can we call them back? Melody shook her head sadly. The challenge must be answered within 24 hours. Colonel Martinez is fighting pirates near the Andromeda system. Commander Thompson is on a diplomatic mission that will take weeks to complete. Captain Johnson is trapped on a research station because of engine problems. Lisa sat down heavily in her chair. So we have no one? There is someone, Melody said quietly. But you are not going to like this. Lisa looked up hopefully. Who? Melody took a deep breath. Private Katie Walsh is currently on Station Alpha 7. She finished her shore leave yesterday and is scheduled to return to duty tomorrow. Lisa tried to remember who Katie Walsh was. The name sounded familiar, but she could not place the face. What makes her special? Melody looked uncomfortable. She is not special. She is just the only trained soldier available who can reach the meeting point in time. What is her combat record? Lisa asked. She has completed basic training and advanced combat courses. She served in 2 small conflicts and performed adequately. She has no special skills or abilities that would help against a Vorthak warrior. Lisa stared at Melody in disbelief. You want us to send a regular soldier against the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy? I do not want anything, Melody replied. But according to Vorthak law, any human warrior can accept the challenge. The laws do not require the warrior to be the best or strongest. Lisa stood up and started walking around the room. Her mind was racing as she tried to think of other options. What if we refuse the challenge? Then Zarathek will attack Earth directly. Her ship carries enough weapons to destroy entire cities. The Vorthak Empire has thousands of ships just like it. And if we accept and lose, the same result. But at least we follow the proper laws of honor. Other alien species will respect humans more if we fight bravely, even if we lose. Lisa stopped walking and looked at the main screen. The Vorthak ship was still there, waiting for an answer. It's red. Lights blinked like a countdown timer. Where is Private Walsh right now? Lisa asked. Melody checked her communication device. According to the station medical officer, she is in the medical bay recovering from what humans call a hangover. Lisa closed her eyes and rubbed her forehead. This was getting worse by the minute. She is drunk? She was drunk. Now she is sick. From being drunk. The medical officer says she consumed large amounts of Centaurian whiskey during her shore leave. Lisa wanted to laugh, but the situation was too serious. Earth's fate might depend on a hungover soldier who was probably throwing up in a medical bay somewhere. Contact Station Alpha 7, Lisa ordered. Tell them to prepare Private Walsh for immediate deployment, and get me everything we have on Vorthak. Fighting techniques. Melody bowed again. I will do my best to help prepare her, Captain, though I fear my best may not be enough. The communication officer turned around. Captain, the Vorthak ship is demanding an answer within 6 hours. Lisa looked at the screen one more time. Send them a reply. Tell them humanity accepts the challenge. Katie Walsh opened her eyes slowly and immediately wished she had not. The bright lights in the medical bay felt like someone was stabbing her brain with hot needles. Her mouth tasted like she had been chewing on old socks, and her stomach was doing flips like an angry gymnast. She tried to sit up, but her head started spinning so badly that she had to lie back down. The room smelled like disinfectant and medicine, which made her feel even more sick. She could hear someone moving around nearby, but turning her head to look seemed like too much work. Good morning, sunshine, said a cheerful voice that sounded way too loud. How are we feeling today? Katie groaned and covered her face with her hands. Like I got hit by a spaceship. What time is it? It is 11 in the morning, ship time. You have been sleeping for 14 hours. The voice belonged to Lieutenant Amy Carter, the station medical officer. Amy was a short woman with red hair and freckles who always seemed happy about everything, even when dealing with sick people. Katie tried to remember what had happened the night before, but everything was fuzzy. She remembered going to the station, bar with some other soldiers. She remembered someone buying drinks for everyone because it was someone's birthday. After that, things got very unclear. Did I do anything stupid last night? Katie asked. Amy laughed and started checking medical equipment nearby. Well, you tried to arm wrestle a Martian cargo worker and lost. Then you sang something called Old MacDonald Had a Farm for about an hour. After that, you challenged the bartender to a drinking contest using Centaurian whiskey. Katie groaned again. Centaurian whiskey was famous for being the strongest alcohol in the galaxy. Most humans could not drink more than 1 glass without getting very sick. How much did I drink? According to the bartender, you had 6 glasses before you passed out on the bar. He said he had never seen a human drink that much and still be able to walk. Before Katie could respond, the medical bay door opened and 2 people walked in. The first was Commander Beth Rodriguez, the station's second in command. She was a serious woman who never smiled and always looked like she was thinking about important military things. The second person made Katie forget about her hangover for a moment. It was the most beautiful woman she had ever seen, with pointed ears and silver hair that seemed to glow. She wore a white dress that looked like it was made from starlight, and she moved like she was dancing even when she was just walking. Private Walsh, Commander Rodriguez said in her serious voice. This is Ambassador Melody Starweaver. She needs to speak with you about an urgent matter. Katie tried to sit up again, and this time she managed to stay upright even though her head felt like it was full of rocks. Ma'am, I am not really in any condition to discuss important things right now. Melody stepped forward and studied Katie, with her bright green eyes. Katie felt like the elf woman was looking right through her, seeing things that Katie did not even know about herself. "Private Walsh," Melody said in a voice that sounded like music. "I need to explain something very important. A few hours ago, Earth received a challenge from the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy. Her name is Zarathek the Destroyer, and she belongs to a species called the Vorthak." Katie blinked slowly, trying to make sense of what she was hearing. "Okay, what does that have to do with me?" "She has challenged humanity to send our greatest warrior to fight her in single combat. The problem is that all of our best fighters are busy with other missions. You are the only available soldier who can reach the fighting location in time." Katie stared at Melody for a long moment, then started laughing. It was not a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh people make when they hear something so crazy that they cannot believe it is real. "You want me to fight some alien warrior? Lady, I can barely stand up right now. I am not even a good soldier on my best day." "Commander," Rodriguez stepped forward. "Private, this is not a request. This is a direct order from Earth Defense Command. You will represent humanity in this combat." "But I am just a regular infantry soldier," Katie said, her voice getting higher. "I know how to shoot a rifle and follow orders. I do not know how to fight alien monsters." Melody sat down on the edge of the medical bed and looked at Katie with kind eyes. "I understand your fear, but the Vorthak follow ancient laws of honor. Any human warrior can accept the challenge regardless of their skill level." "What happens if I lose?" Katie asked, though she was pretty sure she already knew the answer. "If you lose, Earth becomes property of the Vorthak Empire, and all humans become their slaves forever." Katie felt her stomach drop, and not just because of the hangover. "And if I win?" "If you win, the Vorthak will leave human space for 100 years. Amy handed Katie a large glass of water and some medicine tablets. "Drink this. It will help with the hangover." Katie drank the water slowly, trying to think. This was insane. She was a nobody soldier who got drunk and sang farm songs in space station bars. She was not a hero or a champion. She was just Katie, Walsh from Ohio, who joined the military because she could not afford college. "What is this Zarathek like?" she asked. Melody's face became serious. "She is 8 feet tall and covered in scales that can stop laser blasts. She has claws that can cut through steel and teeth like knives. She has been fighting for 300 years and has never lost a battle." 300 years? Katie squeaked. "How old is she?" "Vorthak live much longer than humans. She has had centuries to perfect her fighting skills." Katie put her head in her hands. This kept getting worse. "How long do I have to prepare?" Commander Rodriguez checked her watch. "The combat is scheduled for tomorrow morning. The transport ship leaves in 4 hours." 4 hours? Katie looked up in panic. "That is not enough time to learn how to fight an alien monster." Melody stood up and smoothed down her dress. "I will travel with you and teach you everything I can during the journey. I have studied Vorthak fighting techniques for many years." Amy finished running medical scans on Katie and frowned at the results. "Her blood alcohol level is still pretty high. She is going to feel terrible for at least another day." "Can you give her something to help?" Melody asked. "I can give her medicine to reduce the hangover symptoms, but she will still be weak and dizzy. Fighting in this condition is very dangerous." Katie stood up slowly, holding on to the medical bed for support. Her legs felt like rubber, and her vision was still a little blurry. "This is crazy. You are sending a sick, hungover soldier to save the world." "Sometimes," Melody said quietly. "The galaxy chooses its heroes in strange ways." Commander Rodriguez handed Katie a data pad with her mission orders. "Private Walsh, you have 3 hours to get ready and report to Transport Base 7. Use that time wisely." As the commander left, Katie looked at Melody with desperate eyes. "Do you really think I have any chance of winning?" Melody was quiet for a moment, and Katie could see doubt in her green eyes. "I think you have something that might help you. Most warriors rely on training and technique. They fight in predictable ways because they have learned specific methods." "What does that mean?" "It means that Zarathek has studied and defeated every known fighting style in the galaxy. She knows how trained warriors move and think. But you are not like other warriors." Katie sat back down on the medical bed. "Because I am not good enough?" "Because you are unpredictable," Melody said with a small smile. Sometimes the best weapon against perfection is chaos. Amy handed Katie another glass of water. Drink lots of fluids and try to eat something light, and maybe pray to whatever gods you believe in. Katie looked at the datapad with her mission orders. Her name was listed as Earth's Champion, which seemed like the biggest joke in the universe. Tomorrow morning, she would face the most dangerous warrior alive while nursing the worst hangover of her life. What could possibly go wrong? She muttered to herself. The transport ship arrived at the neutral asteroid just as Katie was throwing up for the third time that morning. The combination of space travel and her lingering hangover was making her feel like death warmed over. Amy had given her the strongest anti-nausea medicine available, but it was not helping much. Katie looked out the small window and saw the most amazing thing she had ever witnessed. The asteroid had been completely transformed into a massive arena that sparkled like a jewel in space. Thousands of alien ships surrounded it, their lights blinking like stars. She could see creatures from dozens of different species gathering to watch the fight. "The entire galaxy is watching," Melody said softly, as she stood beside Katie at the window. "This is the biggest combat challenge in over a century." Katie wiped her mouth with a tissue and tried to stand up straight. She was wearing standard human combat gear, which looked very plain compared to the fancy armor and weapons she could see on the alien warriors outside. Her gear included a simple helmet, basic body armor, and a small laser pistol that probably could not hurt a Vorthak anyway. "I still feel terrible," Katie said, holding her stomach. "My head is pounding, my hands are shaking, and I keep hiccuping." Melody had spent the entire trip trying to teach Katie about Vorthak fighting techniques, but Katie could barely focus on anything for more than a few minutes without feeling sick. Most of the lessons had ended with Katie running to the bathroom. "Remember what I taught you," Melody said. "Vorthak warriors are very strong and fast, but they have weak spots. The scales on their necks are softer, and their eyes are sensitive to bright light." Katie nodded, though she was not sure how much she actually remembered. Everything Melody had told her seemed to blend together in her foggy brain. She knew she was supposed to dodge attacks and look for openings, but that was about it. The transport ship docked with the arena, and Katie could hear the sound of thousands of alien voices cheering and roaring. The noise was so loud that it made her headache even worse. She felt like she was walking to her own execution. The arena itself was incredible. It was a perfect circle about the size of a football field, with walls that rose up like a giant bowl. The floor was made of some kind of metal that reflected the lights from above, creating patterns that moved like water. Around the edges, thousands of aliens sat in viewing areas, their eyes focused on the center where the combat would take place. Katie walked slowly toward the arena entrance, her legs still feeling weak and unsteady. Melody walked beside her, offering quiet words of encouragement that Katie could barely hear over the noise of the crowd. "Just remember," Melody said, "you do not have to fight like a traditional warrior. Use your human instincts and do whatever feels natural." Katie wanted to laugh, but she was afraid it would make her throw up again. Her human instincts were telling her to run away as fast as possible and hide under a rock somewhere. They reached the edge of the arena, and Katie got her first look at her opponent. Zarathek the Destroyer stood on the opposite side, and she was even more terrifying than Melody had described. She was massive, standing at least 8 feet tall with broad shoulders and arms that looked like they could crush steel. Her entire body was covered in dark green scales that seemed to absorb light, but it was her face that made Katie's blood run cold. Zarathek had yellow eyes like a snake, with pupils that were narrow slits. Her mouth was full of sharp teeth that looked like they belonged on a shark. When she opened her mouth to roar, the sound echoed through the entire arena like thunder. Around her neck, Zarathek wore a necklace made from the bones and teeth of creatures she had defeated. Some of the bones looked human, which made Katie feel even more sick. The Vorthak warrior held 2 curved swords that were as long as Katie's entire body. The crowd was going crazy, with aliens cheering and making bets on the outcome. Katie could hear some of them laughing, probably at the sight of such a small human facing such a massive opponent. She did not blame them for laughing. If she was watching this from the crowd, she would probably laugh too. An official from the Galactic Council stepped forward to announce the rules. He was a tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice was amplified by speakers so everyone could hear. This combat will be decided by ancient laws of honor, the official said. The fight continues until one warrior yields or cannot. Continue. No weapons other than those approved by both sides may be used. Let the combat begin. Zarathek stepped into the center of the arena and raised her swords above her head. She let out another roar that made the metal floor vibrate under Katie's feet. The crowd responded with even louder cheering. "Warriors of the galaxy!" Zarathek shouted in a voice like grinding rocks. "Behold the pathetic champion that humanity has sent to face me. This weak creature will provide barely a moment of entertainment before I crush her bones and add them to my collection." Katie stepped into the arena on shaky legs, immediately regretting every decision that had led her to this moment. She could hear some aliens in the crowd making disappointed noises, probably upset that the fight would be over so quickly. Melody called out from the sideline, "Remember, Katie, be unpredictable." Katie hiccuped loudly, which caused some of the aliens to laugh. She was holding a small water bottle in one hand, which she had been using to stay hydrated during the trip. Her other hand rested on her laser pistol, though she knew it would be useless against Vorthak's scales. The official raised his hand to signal the start of combat. "Begin!" Zarathek immediately charged forward with incredible speed, her massive body moving like a freight train. She swung both swords in a pattern that would have cut a normal warrior in half. Katie, who was still feeling dizzy and nauseous, stumbled backward just as the blades whistled through the air where her head had been a second before. She tripped over her own feet and fell to one knee, accidentally dodging a second attack that would have taken her arm off. The crowd gasped in surprise. It looked like Katie had performed some kind of advanced combat maneuver, but she had actually just lost her balance. Zarathek spun around and attacked again, this time with a series of quick strikes that were too fast for most eyes to follow. Katie, who was trying to stand up while holding her stomach, swayed back and forth like she was dancing. Each sway happened to move her just out of reach of the deadly blades. "Impossible," Zarathek growled. "No warrior moves like this." Katie finally managed to stand up, though she immediately had to lean against the arena wall to keep from falling over. She was breathing heavily and sweating. Not from the fight, but from trying not to throw up in front of thousands of aliens. "This is not a fighting style I have seen before," Zarathek said, circling Katie like a predator. "What techniques have the humans taught you?" Katie wiped her mouth and tried to focus her blurry vision on her opponent. "Lady, I honestly have no idea what I am doing right now." This answer seemed to confuse Zarathek even more. Warriors were supposed to boast about their training and skills, not admit to being completely lost. The Vorthak champion decided to end this quickly. She raised both swords and prepared to deliver her most powerful attack, a spinning strike that had never failed to finish an opponent. Katie, who was in the middle of another wave of nausea, doubled over and dry-heaved just as Zarathek's blades spun through the space where her head had been moments before. The arena fell completely silent as Zarathek missed her most deadly attack. For 300 years, her spinning blade technique had never failed to end a fight. Now she stood frozen in disbelief, staring at the small human who was bent over, making sick noises. Katie straightened up slowly, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. She had no idea that she had just avoided an attack that had killed dozens of the galaxy's greatest warriors. She was more concerned about the fact that her stomach was still doing flips and her vision kept going in and out of focus. "What kind of training produces such movements?" Zarathek demanded, raising her swords again. "Your dodge was perfect, yet you show no awareness of combat technique." Katie blinked at her through blurry eyes. "I am sorry, what did you say?" "I am having trouble hearing over the ringing in my ears." This was not the response Zarathek expected. Warriors usually traded insults or made speeches about honor and glory. They did not complain about hangovers in the middle of combat. From the viewing area, Commander Beth Rodriguez was watching with growing amazement. She had seen Katie's military records, which showed an average soldier with basic combat skills. But what she was witnessing now looked like something completely different. "She is fighting like she is drunk," Beth said to herself, then realized that Katie probably still was a little drunk. But somehow it is working. Melody Starweaver was equally confused. She had studied combat techniques from hundreds of different species, but Katie's movements did not match any known fighting style. The human seemed to stumble and weave randomly, yet each movement placed her in exactly the right position to avoid Zarathek's attacks. Zarathek decided to try a different approach. Instead of using powerful strikes, she would use quick, precise attacks that would be impossible to dodge accidentally. She lunged forward with a series of rapid thrusts aimed at Katie's center mass. Katie, who was feeling another wave of nausea, leaned against the arena wall and slid down into a sitting position. The motion caused all of Zarathek's attacks to pass harmlessly over her head. "Stop moving like that!" Zarathek roared in frustration. "Fight me properly!" Katie looked up at the towering alien warrior with confused eyes. "I am not trying to move any particular way. I just feel really sick." The crowd was starting to murmur with excitement. This was not going the way anyone had expected. Betting. Windows were frantically updating their odds as aliens tried to figure out what they were seeing. A group of Centaurian observers was particularly interested. Their species was known for being excellent at reading combat patterns, and they could not make sense of Katie's fighting style at all. "She fights with pure chaos," one Centaurian said to his companion. "There is no pattern, no technique, no predictable sequence. It is like trying to hit a leaf blown by random wind." Zarathek was growing more frustrated with each failed attack. She had studied every known martial art in the galaxy. She knew how warriors from different species moved and thought. But this human was doing things that made no sense. Katie struggled to stand up again, using the wall for support. She was still holding her water bottle, which was now half empty from all the sips she had been taking to try to settle her stomach. Her combat gear was soaked with sweat, and her helmet was sitting crooked on her head. "I think I am going to be sick again," Katie announced to no one in particular. Zarathek saw this as an opportunity. While the human was distracted by her illness, she would strike with her fastest combination attack. She moved with incredible speed, her swords creating a pattern of death that no warrior had ever survived. Katie, who was indeed about to throw up, turned away from Zarathek and hunched over. The movement caused her to spin slightly, and somehow her elbow connected with the flat side of one of Zarathek's swords. The impact knocked the blade off course and sent the Vorthak warrior stumbling sideways. Did she just disarm a Vorthak warrior with her elbow? Someone in the crowd shouted. Katie had not noticed what happened. She was too busy trying to keep from throwing up on the arena floor. She took another sip from her water bottle and leaned against the wall again. Zarathek recovered quickly and picked up her sword. Her yellow eyes were burning with anger and confusion. "What species taught you to fight? This is not human combat technique." "Nobody taught me to fight like this," Katie said honestly. "I learned basic combat training in the military, but mostly I just know how to follow orders and clean my equipment." This answer made Zarathek even more angry. She was the greatest warrior alive, feared across 17 star systems. She should not be having trouble with a soldier who cleaned equipment for a living. The Vorthak champion decided to use her most aggressive fighting style. She would attack constantly, giving her opponent no time to rest or think. She launched into a series of spinning strikes, each one flowing into the next like a deadly dance. Katie watched the spinning swords and immediately felt dizzier than before. The combination of her hangover and the fast-moving blades made her feel like the entire arena was rotating around her. She stumbled backward, weaving from side to side as she tried to keep her balance. To everyone watching, it looked like Katie was performing an advanced evasion technique that perfectly countered Zarathek's spinning attack pattern. Each time, a blade came toward her. She happened to sway in exactly the right direction to avoid it. But Katie was not thinking about combat techniques. She was thinking about how much she wanted to lie down somewhere dark and quiet. She was thinking about how her mouth still tasted terrible and how her head felt like someone was hitting it with a hammer. The water bottle in her hand was almost empty now. She had been sipping from it constantly, trying to stay hydrated like Amy had told her to do. Without really thinking about it, she tossed the empty bottle aside so she could use both hands to steady herself against the wall. The bottle sailed through the air in a slow arc, spinning end over end. Zarathek was so focused on her attack pattern that she did not see the small object flying toward her face until it was too late. The plastic bottle struck the Vorthak warrior directly between her yellow eyes with a soft thunk. It did not hurt her, but it surprised her so much that she stopped her attack and took a step backward. "Did you just throw a water bottle at me?" Zarathek asked in disbelief. Katie looked around and realized she no longer had her bottle. "Oh," Sorry about that. I did not mean to hit you. I was just trying to get rid of it. The crowd was going absolutely wild. Aliens were cheering, roaring, and making sounds that had no translation in any known language. Some species were jumping up and down with excitement, while others were simply staring in amazement. Commander Beth Rodriguez was shaking her head in wonder. She is fighting the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy, and she just apologized for accidentally hitting her with trash. Melody was beginning to understand what was happening. Katie was not fighting like a warrior at all. She was just a sick person trying to get through an unpleasant situation, and somehow that was the most effective combat technique anyone had ever seen against a Vorthak. Zarathek stood in the center of the arena holding her two swords, staring at Katie with a mixture of rage and complete confusion. In 300 years of combat, she had never encountered anything like this. The human fought with no technique, no strategy, and no apparent awareness of what was happening around her. Katie was leaning against the arena wall again, taking deep breaths and trying to make the spinning sensation in her head go away. Her face was pale and sweaty, and she kept making small, groaning sounds that echoed through the arena speakers. "This cannot be happening," Zarathek muttered to herself. "I am the destroyer. I have conquered star systems. I cannot be defeated by a sick human who throws garbage." The crowd was louder than it had ever been. Aliens from dozens of species were shouting, cheering, and arguing about what they were witnessing. Many had never seen a Vorthak warrior struggle in combat before. The betting windows had stopped taking new bets because nobody could figure out what odds to offer. Katie pushed herself away from the wall and tried to walk toward the center of the arena. She managed about 3 steps before stumbling and catching herself on one knee. The movement looked like some kind of advanced combat role to most of the observers. "I really need to sit down somewhere quiet," Katie said, not realizing that her voice was being broadcast to the entire arena, "and maybe get some coffee, and definitely some aspirin." Zarathek decided that enough was enough. She would end this fight with her ultimate technique, the Vorthak Death Spiral. It was a spinning attack that built up incredible speed and power, creating a whirlwind of blades that nothing could survive. She began spinning slowly, building momentum with each rotation. Her swords created a humming sound as they cut through the air faster and faster. The technique required perfect timing and positioning, but once it reached full speed, it was absolutely unstoppable. Katie watched the spinning alien and immediately felt her stomach lurch. The sight of Zarathek rotating like a deadly tornado made her hangover symptoms much worse. She closed her eyes and tried to focus on not throwing up, which was becoming more difficult by the second. "Here comes the death spiral!" someone in the crowd shouted. "No warrior has ever survived it!" Melody gripped the railing of the viewing area and watched in horror as Zarathek's spin reached maximum velocity. The Vorthak warrior was now moving, so fast that she looked like a blur of green scales and flashing metal. Commander Beth Rodriguez closed her eyes. She could not watch Katie get torn apart by those spinning blades. But Katie was not paying attention to the death spiral. She was focused entirely on the sick feeling in her stomach and the pounding in her head. The arena lights seemed too bright, and the noise from the crowd was making everything worse. She decided she needed to get some fresh air, even though there was no actual air outside the arena's atmosphere dome. Without thinking about it, she started walking toward what she thought was the exit. Unfortunately, her sense of direction was completely confused by her hangover. Instead of walking toward the exit, she walked directly into the path of Zarathek's death spiral. The crowd gasped in horror. It looked like Katie was deliberately walking into certain death, but just as Zarathek's spinning form reached Katie's position, something unexpected happened. Katie's stomach finally gave up the fight against her hangover. She doubled over and started dry heaving, bending forward so quickly that Zarathek's spinning swords passed harmlessly over her head. The sudden change in Katie's position caused Zarathek to lose her balance. She had been spinning so fast that any change in her target's location would throw off her momentum. She stumbled, wobbled, and crashed into the arena wall with a tremendous bang. The impact was so hard that it shook the entire arena. Zarathek's swords flew out of her hands and clattered across the metal floor. She slumped against the wall, dazed and confused. Katie straightened up slowly, still feeling nauseous but slightly better after dry heaving. She looked around and noticed that Zarathek was sitting on the ground looking stunned. "Are you okay?" Katie asked with genuine concern. "That looked like it hurt." The arena was completely silent. Thousands of aliens stared in shock at what had just happened. The most feared warrior in the galaxy had been defeated by someone who was asking if she was okay. Zarathek shook her head to clear her vision and looked up at Katie. For the first time in 300 years, she had been outfought. But this was unlike any defeat she had ever imagined. She had not been beaten by superior skill or strength. She had been beaten by something she could not understand or predict. "How did you do that?" Zarathek asked, her voice filled with amazement, rather than anger. Katie looked confused. "Do what? I just felt sick and had to bend over. Then you crashed into the wall." "You defeated the death spiral. No warrior in galactic history has ever survived the death spiral." "I did not know it had a name," Katie said. "I was just trying not to throw up." Zarathek slowly stood up and walked over to where her swords had fallen. She picked them up and looked at Katie with new respect in her yellow eyes. "Human warrior," Zarathek said formally, "you have defeated me in honorable combat. According to the ancient laws, I must acknowledge your victory." Katie blinked in surprise. "I won? But I did not do anything except feel sick. You fought with a style I have never encountered. Your movements were completely unpredictable. You turned your own weakness into a weapon that I could not defend against." The crowd erupted in cheers that could probably be heard on nearby planets. Aliens were throwing things in the air, dancing and making celebration noises in dozens of different languages. Many were chanting Katie's name, though most of them were pronouncing it wrong. Melody Starweaver was laughing and crying at the same time. She had witnessed something that would be talked about in galactic history books for thousands of years. Commander Beth Rodriguez was shaking her head in amazement. She saved Earth by having a hangover. This is going to be the most ridiculous mission report I have ever written. Zarathek raised her swords in a formal salute. "By the laws of honor, the Vorthak Empire will withdraw from human space for 100 years. Your species has proven itself worthy of respect." She paused and looked at Katie with curiosity. "Tell me, warrior, what is this fighting technique called? I must know the name of the style that defeated me." Katie thought about it for a moment. "I guess you could call it the hangover style, though I do not recommend it. It feels terrible." Zarathek nodded seriously. "The hangover style. I will remember this name. Your people fight with a chaos that makes them more dangerous than any warrior I have faced." The official stepped forward to make the victory announcement, but his voice was drowned out by the celebrating crowd. Katie just stood there looking, confused and tired, wanting nothing more than to go back to bed. As they prepared to leave the arena, Melody put her arm around Katie's shoulders. "Do you realize what you just did? You saved Earth and became the most famous warrior in galactic history." Katie shrugged. "I just tried to get through the day without throwing up. Though I am pretty sure I need some coffee and about 12 hours of sleep." Later, back on the transport ship, Katie was finally able to lie down in a quiet room. Amy checked her vital signs and confirmed that she was still suffering from her hangover, but was otherwise healthy. "The irony is incredible," Amy said. "The thing that made you the worst possible choice for combat was exactly what you needed to win." Commander Beth Rodriguez was working on her mission report, trying to figure out how to explain what had happened to Earth Defense Command. She decided to focus on the results rather than the details. Captain Lisa Murphy's voice came through the communication system. "Commander Rodriguez, please give me a status update." Beth looked at Katie, who was finally able to drink some coffee without feeling sick. "Mission accomplished, Captain. Private Walsh has successfully defeated the Vorthak champion and secured Earth's freedom for the next century." "Outstanding. What was her secret weapon?" Beth looked at her report and sighed. "Centaurian whiskey, Captain." There was a long pause. "Come again?" "I will explain everything in my full report, Captain. But the short version is that sometimes the galaxy chooses its heroes in very strange ways." Katie finished her coffee and looked out the window at the alien ships departing from the Arena asteroid. She was already becoming a legend, though she did not know it yet. Across the galaxy, aliens would tell stories about the human warrior who fought with chaos and defeated order. But Katie was just happy that her headache was finally starting to go away. Tomorrow, she would go back to being a regular soldier who cleaned equipment and followed orders, though she had a feeling that life might be a little different from now on. Next time, she said to herself, I am definitely staying away from Centaurian whiskey.